Oh my god.
So here we are in the park. I am in a tree. And that was going to be the title of this episode, but maybe not, because I'm not in a tree. I might be up a tree, on a tree. Who knows? Okay. This is not cool. It's okay. Oh, public places. So, yes, this is going to be just recorded in one take. This is episode 2 of To Traveler Professional Idiot Monologues, and there are people walking past, so we have to be careful that someone ain't going to try and steal that dude. What are you looking at? So yeah, I was going to call this one I'm in a tree, up a tree, but I can't be sure that, but because the topic's going to be about my background, where I'm from and stuff, I'm kind of thinking like family business. Family business sounds good. So if you see that title, that's what I've just decided on the spot. So I am a child trapped in a 46-year-old man's body. Born in Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire, in the Midlands, in the UK. I have a brother, and he's pretty much the only existing family member left. But as a kid, I grew up with my mum and dad and brother in a place called Silverdale. Silverdale was like a small mining village, and that's where my dad worked for a while. And then my parents split when I was around 8. We never really saw much of our dad. He never really gave a thing. And then I remember being at the top of the stairs watching him leave around 8. And yeah, so it turns out he was actually having an affair with my auntie. So fun and games. Yeah, he never really cared, to the point where I remember an incident where my brother fractured his skull after falling off a wall, and I had to run back to the home to go get him. And he was just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. So he left when I was 8. My brother was around 6, and so our awesome mum, basically, single parent, grew up, brought us up, 2 or 3 jobs, I think. She just worked all the time. We had neighbours looking after us and things such as that. So growing up with a strong, independent woman already garnered my respect for her. Me and my brother, one of us could have easily been adopted, I think, because he's huge and blonde and I'm skinny and dark. So we used to say one was the Colemans and one was the Milkmans. So we used to always argue about that, and we grew up in separate ways. I started forming bands as a teenager and hanging out, and all of the kind of smoke, just chilling with my friends. And my brother was more into the sort of the towny vibe with his friends. Back home we used to call them chavs. So it's more to do with how much your watch costs or that kind of thing more than anything else. So we kind of grew up with the same upbringing and respect for a hardworking mum. But then, yeah, it's completely the opposite and different. I love him. Actually, talking about him now and in the previous episode makes me just want to get in touch with him. We kind of haven't spoken since our mum passed away. But yeah, so growing up as kids, our dad would have custody of us at the weekends, so we would go to his grandparents, and they also lived in Silverdale, and that was never a cool thing because they never liked my mum, they never liked us. And even now, over 40 or so years later, I still remember hearing his dad, my granddad, saying that they should just tie a brick around our necks and throw us in the river or some shit, which is kind of weird because something like this would be too shallow. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, and then at that point we used to go and visit my mum's mum in Belgium, and that's what I mentioned before. So as a kid we went there, and she owned a bar in Ostend called Marisha's Pub, and she was a horrible woman. We witnessed, she would slap my mum around and stuff. She never hit us as kids, but she was really weird and cruel and horrible to all the staff. And as I sort of briefly mentioned in the first episode, every time that we went out, there were these two guys, Salvador and Michelle, who hung out with us when we went to the beach or just anywhere. And, when you're 8 years old, you kind of think, oh, this is cool. Like, these two dudes are hanging out with us all the time. And then we would go back, and then, like, there would be a lock-in in the pub, and all these guys would turn around. And then later on, as an adult, it turns out that, yeah, so Michelle and Salvador were sent out to protect us. They were ex-army dudes. And basically, because my nan was running some dodgy business with drug dealers and cartels or whatever in the 80s, then Salvador and Michelle would be out there to protect my mum, me, and my brother. So, stop us from getting kidnapped. But that's really weird. And she ran that for a while, to the point when her mother, so my great grandmother, when she passed away and there was a funeral in London, my nan came over, and yeah, so my mum actually had to have police protection to go to her nan's funeral, because of these heavies or whatever it was that she brought with her. So that's kind of weird. But moving on to my great grandmother, an amazing woman, that, like, growing up, I found out some really about her. So she was a Polish Jew, married a guy from Essex, eventually called Ted, but during the Second World War, she actually fled the invasion, of course, and took her nephew. And I think they ended up going to Israel. I'm not sure where they ended up. That part's a mystery to me. But her and her nephew, Michael, they fled. So everybody else, unfortunately, was, of course, taken to the camps and died in the gas chambers and stuff like that. So I'm not Jewish per se, but I have Jewish heritage, and I'm really proud of that. Like, she was such a badass, and she could speak like 7 different languages. But when she was passing away, she became quite senile and assumed that as a kid that I could speak all of these languages. So she used to talk to me in Hebrew a lot and all these things, but she would have these moments of clarity where she would just literally talk to me about her escape and how she fell in love with a German soldier at the time. And they were together for a while, and, like, I don't know if it was an affair or whatever, but like an escaping Jew fleeing Poland and then meeting this guy. So she taught me a poem, and this poem is in German, and it's the only German that I know. And so I'm going to try and recite it now. So, to my German friends, especially Carl and Tony, I apologize in advance if you're listening. Ich liebe dich, ich kann dich nicht und liebe dich. Mein Hart gehört kein anderen, du gehörst zu mir. So I think that means something along the lines of, I love you, there's no one else, but I love you, my heart belongs to no one else but you, or something, you belong to me. So yeah, on my mum's side, you've got a drug dealing or whatever she was doing nan, and then a badass great grandmother who obviously I wouldn't be here without that. So that's why maybe you could say I'm Jewish in brackets, I don't know, but like, I highly respect that. On my dad's side, I never knew anything apart from his parents being assholes, and he was an too. So I can't even remember how old I was when he passed, but my brother picked me up from work one day and just said, "Oh, Dad's dead," and we just shrugged the shoulders. So that's really sad, but so many people died in my life as well that you kind of shrug it off and it seems like a normality, especially with family members. But yeah, I also remember we used to go and visit him as teenagers because he only lived 10 minutes away from my mum. So, you're sort of 11, 12 years old or whatever, and your dad's buying you porno mags and stuff. That was his way of saying sorry, I guess. I don't know. Go and have a wank in the field or something. But yeah, so he worked in the pit, in the mines in Silverdale, which obviously got closed down. Thanks, Thatcher, you bitch. But like, yeah, so he worked there, but he, as well as working in the mines with all that coal and he smoked 60 cigarettes a day. And like, would literally light another cigarette with a different one. And I do remember he had a triple heart bypass at some point, so that probably was heart failure when he died or something. But again, didn't really care. Um, and so yeah, many cousins are lost. I know that I also have an auntie that my dad had the affair with. I have an uncle or two uncles. Um, One I never met who died of a heroin overdose because there was a lot of abuse going on when mum and her siblings were growing up. So yeah, and another uncle who I won't say too much about, but he is, as far as I know, he's currently still in hiding somewhere in the UK under witness protection because he flushed a load of drugs down the toilet from a gang he was selling for. So it's kind of weird, like stuff, but again, I just want to be really open about all of this. So we're covering as much as it possibly can. And of course, the most important person in my life was my mum, who brought me and my brother up. I'll talk more about this in the next episode because it's cancer related, and that's the big one I want to share with you. But she passed away 5 years ago, this Christmas just gone. About 4 or 5 years after I beat. I mean, what do you even say you beat cancer? Whatever. That's so. Like, um, after I came out the other end or whatever, I survived. It all sucks in terms of context, but yeah. So that stays with me for a long ass time. Like one of the most amazing women in the world, and I know now she'd probably be listening to me talking about it like this and tell me to shut. But the best thing about her was when me and my brother were growing up and we didn't have any money for stuff really, but she did the best that she could. She always told us to do whatever we wanted as long as we were happy. And she pushed us to, like, education and work and to do the best that we can. But she said to me once, I don't care if you're picking up litter from the street, if you're like doing bins or, cleaning toilets for a living. If you're happy doing what you do, then nothing else matters. And I think that's the thing that we should all take from that, really. Just do what makes you happy, like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but like, stop worrying about what people think. Like, everybody else, you've got to do what's good for you. And I hope more people can do that, because that's what I'm doing. I'm literally in a park on a tree. I think on a tree sounds good. Being recorded by an awesome human being right now. And yeah, this will be the second episode, but also it's crazy because I'm going off on a tangent now. But when I was struggling for like a stem cell donor, they test your family and they weren't a match. And that really upset them and stuff. But yeah, I really need to get in touch with my brother and stuff. Like, I'm still in touch with my ex-wife, who I talked about before. So it's weird because I've kind of grown up not really having a family around me, like no father figure or anything, but an awesome badass woman. And I'll just briefly talk about it. But when I got married, partner has this enormous giant Scouse family from Liverpool, and her mum, dad, like stepdad, and their brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles, and that was really overwhelming for me. But I still hold them dear. I still love them all because they welcome me, and it freaked me the out. Like, when you grow up with two people in your life and that's your entire family, it kind of makes you realize how important it is when you see a bigger family and love, because our family was always troubled with all that kind of stuff. But like, you make your own family too. And I've always said that, especially during traveling for those 14 months, like, you make so many close friends with other travelers and people like in hostels, and that's what I like to think. I like to think that I make my own family because I've grown up without one. And I know this episode sounds like a big up story, but it's just the truth, and that's why I wanted these episodes to be. I want them to be truthful. I want you to listen and know about this, because when I get into the like traveling side of things and the actual amateur traveler professional edit sort of thing, then a lot of it will make more sense. Like, if you think this one's a doozy, wait till you hear the entire cancer one next week. So I think when you do that kind of thing and you make your own family, that's when things become more important, and bonds that you share with these people. Like I say, I don't really know. There's probably some family members around left alive. I'm sure there's probably quite a few illegitimate children, because my brother slept around for a bit. So maybe there's some, like, maybe I've got some, like, I don't know, nieces or nephews. But that's how it is. And the bands that have been in there, my family, like the friends that I make there, my family. And yeah, I'm kind of like making my own little family now with someone who I've met and meeting their family. So that's cool. And again, overwhelming for me, but I guess you just got to roll with the punches now and stuff. So, is there anything else I haven't covered about my family? Or at least my background and stuff. So, with the bands and the label, well, that'll be another episode, of course. I don't want to go off on one. But I feel like, yeah, that's pretty much all that I've got for this one, I think. I don't know if we're good for time. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll close this one down. And like I say, I have to have this unedited. It has to be done in one take. I don't want it to be manufactured or whatever. So if you're still listening, if you're still around, thank you. And I'll see you guys next week. I'm now going to dramatically jump off a tree, which is not even a meter. All right, cool. Go home, eat kale, and pray to Jesus.